Hi, everyone. This is your host, Raven Syed, and welcome back to Forgotten Echoes, a podcast where we dive into the mysterious and unexplained cases of Black women and girls that often get lost in time. So if you didn't notice, even just with those couple of sentences, I am sick, fighting to breathe right now, but I am here. I feel like I gave this exact announcement 3 episodes ago because me and the cold are playing ping pong right now between work, because I have a full-time job outside of this, and the gym, which is my second job outside of this. I keep getting the sickness that doesn't want to quite leave me. So very congested and, yeah. So if you hear me fighting to breathe, that's because I really am. Bear with me. We're going to get through it today though, but I'm feeling good and excited to get into today's case. So as always, don't forget to subscribe to Forgotten Echoes, download this episode, and leave a comment so you can tune in anytime, anywhere. Now, I've got a fan out for a moment, and I wish I wasn't so sick because I go really crazy, because as of last episode, Forgotten Echoes hit 1,000 downloads and listens across 9 countries. Seriously? 1,000 downloads across 9 countries is just so phenomenal. I have no words. I'm so grateful and so thankful for all of you guys. I know that might not be big numbers to a lot of podcasts, but I couldn't have imagined that at episode 13, that's the type of stats Forgotten Echoes would see. So just want to share how incredibly grateful I am that you're here, because these aren't just stories. They're real lives, real families, real pain. And my mission has always been to bring these cases to light, amplify awareness, and just push for action for Black women who are so often overlooked. So if you've been with me on this journey from the beginning or in any capacity, just know I love you for real, for real. Now let's get into today's cases. Yes, cases. Not all disappearances come with flashing lights or breaking news. Some unravel in silence, leaving behind nothing but questions and fear. Today I'm diving into 2 haunting cases, separated by a decade and over 1,400 miles. Both women vanished near bus stops, and both might be tangled in a dark, rarely spoken about theory: sex trafficking. The signs are there if you know where to look. Our first case unfolds in August of 2006 in Auburn, Washington. An 18-year-old girl left home with a kiss, a hug, and a simple promise: "I'll call you later." But that call never came, and she never returned home. And just like that, she vanished in a thin air, leaving behind only silence and a family still waiting on answers. Our second case takes us to Aurora, Colorado, where a 16-year-old honor student with a bright future vanished without a trace just after 2:30 in the morning. One moment she was there, and next minute she was gone. No goodbyes, no answers, never seen or heard from again. Or was she? This is episode 14, The Bus Stop Disappearances of Caleta White and Lashaya Stine. Sources for today's episode include Seattle Times, The Charlie Project, Fox 13 Seattle, Denver 7, True Case Files, Our Black Girls, Trace Evidence Podcast, Episode 107, The Vanished Podcast, Denver Post, DHS.gov, PolarisProject.org, MissingKids.org, Undoc.com, Love146.org, and last but not least, Thorn.org. Say all that 5 times fast. Now, let's get into today's episode. Black girls in the United States face a disproportionately high risk of sex trafficking influenced by systemic factors such as poverty and societal biases, to name a few. Here are some key statistics highlighting this issue. Number 1, 40% of sex trafficking victims are Black women and girls, despite Black individuals making up a way smaller percentage of the U.S. population. Number 2, 57.5% of all juvenile prostitution arrests involve Black children, indicating a trend of criminalizing victims rather than identifying them as individuals in need of support. Here are also a few county and state-specific stats I found that were equally alarming. Number 1, in Los Angeles County, 92% of Black girls in the juvenile justice system identified as trafficking victims are Black, underscoring the intersection of race, the justice system, and victimization. And number 2, in Louisiana, Black girls represent nearly 49% of child sex trafficking victims, although they only make up approximately 19% of the state's youth population. These disparities are exacerbated by factors such as over-sexualization and adultification, which can lead to misidentification and just a lack of protection overall. And on top of all of this, Black girls are more likely to experience poverty, which is a huge risk factor for trafficking, according to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Addressing this crisis requires systemic change, including policy reforms, community education, and support systems that recognize and combat the unique vulnerabilities faced by Black girls. But it all starts with knowing the preventative signs. And I'll dive deeper into that at the end of the episode. For now, let's start with our first case. Our first story begins in the summer of 2006 in Auburn, Washington, where 18-year-old Caleta Sade White, known as KK, was preparing to start her senior year at Auburn High School. And she couldn't wait to be a senior. And let's talk about the excitement to walk through your high school's main entrance and know this is your last first day of high school. That's a feeling that just can't be replicated. Now, Caleta was your typical teenager in the early 2000s. The pictures I've seen of her, I spy the 2000s coded oversized puffy white bombers, the icy blonde tips in her hair, and she had the straightened bangs with the curly hair. And I stand because I was doing the same thing, you just had to be there. And to bring home the point, she just seemed like such a fun and sweet, typical teenage girl. Caleta was the middle child, born March 19th, 1988, and she was really close with her entire family, specifically her mother, Rhonda White. Her mother remembers her daughter stating, quote, "She is so funny. If you're down, she'll pick you up. If she sees anyone down, she'll always pick them up," quote. They spoke all the time and stayed in constant communication, especially with it being the early 2000s and, everyone and their mom had the new flip phones. So it was really unusual that on August 21st of 2006, Caleta told her mom she was heading to Tukwila, Washington, about 20 minutes away to visit her boyfriend, but she never returned home. Now, to be more specific, August 21st was a Monday, and because it was late August, but not quite Labor Day, I'm assuming that the teenagers were still on summer break. Caleta received a call from her boyfriend that day while at home, and heads up, his name was never disclosed, so I'm referring to him as the boyfriend. And her mom says that she pretty much immediately headed out the door once she got that call. She took the Metro bus 128 to go visit her boyfriend, who lived in the nearby city of Tukwila. And I hope I said that right. I listened to that a million times, but can't seem to get it right. So if I am incorrect, yell at me in the comments. Now, Tukwila was about 20 or 25 minutes from Auburn, so she gave her mom a kiss on the cheek and hugged her goodbye, and quickly shouting out the door, she'd call her mom later. But that call never came, and that would be the last time Rhonda ever saw her daughter walk out the front door. As the hours go by, Caleta's mom is starting to get worried because she's not home and she's also not answering her phone. At this point, Rhonda called the Auburn Police Department to report her daughter missing. Now, there's not much information on the case, so I don't know if the police department immediately did a formal search for Caleta or they waited a bit to maybe see if she would turn up because she was 18. We just don't know. But what we do know is it was reported by Detective William Sundquist with the Auburn Police Department that Caleta had a doctor's appointment a couple of days later. So her family as well as detectives were waiting to see if she would show up to the appointment. And when she didn't, they knew foul play was suspected. Auburn Police Department began their investigation, but early on, they hit a wall. Friends and associates of Caleta gave conflicting stories about when they last saw her, and then Caleta's phone went straight to voicemail. I couldn't find any information on if the phone was tracked or not, but if it was, police are being tight-lipped about it. It also was 2006, so I'm not sure if the information was readily available at the time. And then on top of everything, the boyfriend that she had gone to see, well, he said she never made it to his house. So what really happened to Caleta? As months went by and Caleta's case went cold, more information came out about her boyfriend, which was suspect to say the least. He had a criminal record and also started giving inconsistent statements to the police. And the more investigators dug, the more suspicious they became. Caleta was 18 when she started dating her boyfriend, and he was a bit older. I don't think too much older where it was alarming, but definitely something to note. It was also her first boyfriend, so she was really naive about the whole dating scene and whatnot. About 5 months before her disappearance, Caleta worked at a daycare and met her boyfriend at a bus stop on her way home. The two were inseparable from that day on. But what seemed like love at first sight turned to something much darker. Now let's rewind 2 months before Caleta went missing. It was reported that police responded to a 911 call involving Caleta and her boyfriend. Fox 13 Seattle News stated, quote, "During this dispute, it came out that her boyfriend was actually acting as her pimp, prostituting her in downtown Seattle." Quote, I'm not sure who made this 911 call, but to be honest, it's not important. And it's really, really sad. I don't know what action was taken, but looking at the dates, Caleta was 18 at the time, so I'm not sure if police really did anything about it. Because, once again, it's not like they were arrested. This was a 911 call of something that may or may not be happening, but it wasn't necessarily factual. They weren't arrested, and they were both over 18. And then playing into the fact that this was Caleta's first real boyfriend, a lot of red flags, but I don't think anything was done considering her mom knew that they were still dating, and her mom allowed her to leave and go visit him, at the drop of a dime. So I don't know, but it's extremely alarming. But I do think there is some merit to it, because that's just not something that someone makes up just because. And soon after her disappearance, her boyfriend moved out of state, which is questionable. Now, police haven't named him a suspect or even a person of interest, but foul play is still suspected in her case. Some reports speculated that Caleta may have traveled to Tacoma or even as far as Detroit, but none of those have ever been confirmed. And with little media coverage and almost no national coverage, Caleta's case went cold. She's never been seen or heard from again. Her mother, Rhonda, has never given up hope, stating, quote, "She gave me a kiss and a hug and told me, 'I'll see you later, Mom. I love you. I'll call you.' I'm still waiting on her to call. I still hope to hear her voice again. I know that she's still alive. All I'm asking for is for someone to bring her home back to me." Quote. Now here's the call to action. At the time of her disappearance, Caleta stood 5'1" and weighed approximately 83 to 100 pounds. She had brown eyes and dark hair with red tips, and her ears and nose were pierced. She was last seen wearing a yellow Adidas jacket, blue jeans, yellow boots, and earrings. Today, Caleta would be 37 years old, and after nearly 2 decades, her family still waits, still wonders, and still hopes. If you have any information about the disappearance of Caleta White, please contact the Auburn Police Department at area code 1-800-931-3080 or call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. You can remain anonymous and you may even be eligible for a reward. But most importantly, you can help bring peace to a family that's been searching for far too long, sending so much light and love to the White family. Caleta White's story is a haunting reminder of how easily Black women and girls can vanish without the world even noticing. As we shift to another case, it's important to recognize a disturbing reality. Black girls make up 40% of all sex trafficking victims in the United States, despite being only 15% of the female population. Many are mislabeled as runaways or even criminals instead of being treated as victims. This brings us to the heartbreaking disappearance of Lashaya Stine, a bright 16-year-old girl whose promising future was cut short when she vanished from Aurora, Colorado in 2016. Colorado is a state known for its breathtaking mountains, fresh alpine air, and postcard-perfect winters. But beneath the serene landscape of Aurora, the third largest city in the Denver metro area, there are stories that can shake even the stillest of snow. One of those stories belongs to Lashaya Stine, a 16-year-old honor student who had her whole life ahead of her. Lashaya Nae Stine was born on February 8, 2000, the only daughter of Sabrina Jones, a devoted mother raising 6 children. Lashaya had an older brother and 4 younger brothers. And child, 5 brothers. I don't know how she did it. But she loved them fiercely, even through their usual sibling squabbles and whatnot. Her place in the family was unshakable. Lashaya was a bright, ambitious young woman attending George Washington High School. She had dreams of becoming a nurse and was already making moves to turn those dreams into reality. She secured a competitive nursing internship with the University of Colorado School of Medicine and was on her way to a promising career. But she also was a typical teen, dealing with the basic teen issues, online shopping, prom dress shopping, and she was in the midst of filling out job applications. And filling out job applications paid off, as she was scheduled for a job interview the very next day after she disappeared. She was navigating her teen years just like so many others, shopping online, picking out dresses, and planning her future. There were no signs of trouble, no warning signs that her life was about to take a tragic turn. On the night of July 14th, 2016, everything seemed pretty normal. The family ended the night with dinner and TV, and everyone eventually settled down to their rooms around 2 a.m. the following day. But after the rest of the family had fallen asleep, Lashaya quietly slipped through her side bedroom window, leaving it unlocked. The morning of July 15th comes around, and her mother Sabrina asks one of her brothers to go upstairs and wake up their sister, remembering she had a job interview that day. But he's shocked to find out her room is empty. And what's even stranger is her wallet, clothes, and phone charger are all left behind. Obviously, everyone is freaking out at this point because she's nowhere in the house, and Sabrina immediately calls the Aurora Police Department to report her daughter missing. At this point, her family's trying to desperately get in contact with her, but her phone's going straight to voicemail, and there's no social media activity whatsoever. And this is really not normal because Lashaya's a Gen Z, and if you know anything about Gen Z, they are glued to their phone. So this is really strange and unlike her. Now, what's crazy at this time is the family contacted the police. The police initially treated the case as a runaway, and they really wouldn't take it seriously and didn't even immediately come to the house. So her mother and brothers take it upon themselves to canvass the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking if anyone had seen her. But unfortunately, no one had. At this point, police finally arrive at 6 p.m. to the family home. Yes, you heard me correctly, 6 p.m. So at this point, it's been at least 8 hours or so since they called, and as I stated earlier, they still stood by the runaway theory. But Sabrina knew her daughter. Lashaya wouldn't have just left, not with a job interview lined up, not with her internship, and definitely not without a word. It literally made no sense. On top of everything, what teen willingly leaves without their phone charger and wallet? And that's a trick question because the answer is none. But days later, a chilling clue emerges. A surveillance camera captured Lashaya walking alone near East Montview Boulevard and Peoria Street at 2:23 in the morning, just a few blocks from her home. And it was the last confirmed sighting of her. She didn't appear panicked, and no one was visibly following her. But that video is the last known proof of her existence. And I'll attach a link of this footage in the show notes. More puzzled than ever, police really didn't know where to turn. Is she a runaway, or is she not? At this point, they had already questioned her friends and all possible suspects, including her ex-boyfriend, and they were all ruled out. And investigators ended up back at square one. There were really no connections to follow up on, and there wasn't a digital trail. So weeks passed. But after weeks of labeling Lashaya as a runaway, eventually the Aurora Police Department began to shift focus. And it all started after lead detective Nick Metz returned from vacation and took the case more seriously. A press conference was held and flyers were distributed across the state. And while all that was great, by then, so much time had already been lost, so the effort didn't really amount to much. As time went on, disturbing reports started coming in. Lashaya may have been abducted into sex trafficking. And at this point, tips are coming in of possible sightings of Lashaya. But there really isn't any proof to back up the claims people are making. People are saying they've seen her in motels across Denver, Kansas, New Mexico, and even Arizona. I mean, even survivors of trafficking claim to have seen her and even described her distinctive quarter-sized scar on her chest. And in one case, a girl said she had even been with Lashaya. And they always mention seeing her with one particular man. But like I said, investigators follow up on these tips, but they don't really lead anywhere. At the same time, there's so many that it's hard to ignore. Is Lashaya out there, or is she not? But the family made sure they also followed up on these tips, and at one point, they started going out on their own to find answers. The family even heard from a local pimp that Lashaya was alive and was always with the exact same man. But law enforcement and family members conducted undercover searches in known trafficking hotspots near Colorado, but no confirmed contact was ever made. The family really showed up for her, and that's why it makes it even harder that nothing concrete ever came from it. And to this day, Lashaya is still missing. As of possible theories, her mother believes that she might have met someone online and planned to see them that night and then come back home, but she never was able to make her way back. And that theory is plausible, considering she left her side window open and left everything important at home. But despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, no suspect has ever been named. Even this mysterious man that she's been suspected of being seen with on numerous occasions has never been identified. Fast forward to today, and Sabrina Jones has become a voice for the voiceless, sharing Lashaya's story wherever she can, on the Vanish podcast, in interviews, at fundraisers. She's never stopped fighting for answers. In the search for her daughter, she has been faced with cruel taunts, scams, people claiming to have information but they really don't, and has been given so much false hope. People have told her to give up, but she never has. Sabrina stated, quote, "I used to be afraid to hear someone say she was dead. Now, I just want to know, whatever it is, good or bad, I just need to know what happened to my baby." Quote. The latest update was in November 2020. The FBI searched a home on Lansing Street, just blocks from where Lashaya was last seen. Investigators spent a total of 3 days breaking down concrete, hoping for answers. But again, nothing. And it's a little unclear why police were so interested in this home to begin with. But what I gathered from online reports is that Lashaya may have possibly been dating one of the kids that lived there at the time. So maybe they thought she was on her way that night to visit him, since the home was pretty close to where she was last seen. But the family that lived there said that they have no knowledge of what happened to Lashaya, and I just said investigators didn't find anything. So that was the end of that lead. And as of today, that's where the case ends. Lashaya would be 25 years old today. She stood 5'6", weighed about 150 pounds, with long black hair, brown eyes, and a scar on her chest. The last time she was seen, she was wearing a black V-neck shirt, black stonewashed jeans, silver hoop earrings, and a silver watch. Now here's the call to action. There is still time to bring Lashaya home. Someone, somewhere knows what happened. Maybe that someone is listening right now. If you have any information about the disappearance of Lashaya Nae Stine, please contact the Aurora Police Department at area code 303-627-3100 or Metro Denver Crime Stoppers at area code 720-913-7867. And reminding you that you can remain anonymous, sending so much light and love to Lashaya's family and friends. Before we end today's episode, I want to take a moment to highlight the warning signs of sex trafficking predators. These tactics are really subtle, but they're calculated and easy to miss, especially when someone is looking for connection or stability. And to reconfirm, both of today's victims weren't officially linked to sex trafficking, but it's a plausible theory in both cases. So here are 5 key red flags to be aware of. Number 1, grooming and charm. Predators move fast emotionally, showering you with gifts, love bombing, giving you ample attention, and all these promises. But behind the kindness, they often try to isolate you from your friends or family. Number 2, control tactics. Predators often monitor your phone or social media accounts, build emotional or financial dependence, and use guilt or threats to maintain control. Usually this happens really slowly, so maintaining some sort of independence is key here. Number 3, targeting vulnerability. They specifically seek out people with low self-esteem, past trauma, or maybe unstable homes and pretend to get it just to build false trust. And not saying that everyone they target has low self-esteem or some type of trauma, but they're going to try and use any type of vulnerability you bring up to relate to you. Number 4, online red flags. Fake profiles, sketchy recruiters, DMs that move too quickly to private apps, and if they're asking for photos or personal info too soon, that's a big red flag. Number 5, too good to be true offers. Modeling gigs, trips, fast money. If the offer sounds amazing, but the details are vague, it could be a trap, so be wary. If any of this sounds familiar for you or someone you know, don't ignore it. Trust your gut, ask questions, and speak up. Thank you for tuning in to episode 14 of Forgotten Echoes. If you appreciate the cases I cover, please consider downloading this episode and leaving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram for visuals of the cases covered. I'm Raven Syed, and I'll see you next week with another case that needs to be remembered. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and keep the echoes of the forgotten alive. I'll see you soon.